Hello and welcome to the BSB50120 Diploma of Business Student Information session. With me today, I have Dr. Mark Sinclair to talk about this very exciting, pertinent and applicable course, certainly in today's environment. Welcome, Mark.
Good morning, James. Hello. Good to be here.
So I thought what we'd do first thing today is have a bit of a look at the course outline and background. And of course, I suppose some of the key competencies and deliverables that are made available through this particular qualification. So up there in front of us, we can see core competencies or core business units, if you will, that include administration and finance, innovation, human resources, of course, and marketing. Now, bearing in mind that this really is a diploma of business and provides, I think, in my opinion, a really kind of like holistic sense and insight into, I think, what's happening in the business environment. Mark, from your experience, certainly, I think drawing on those competencies that we've identified, how pertinent are they in today's business environment?
Look, this is really a great course for those seeking to start a new business, those looking for business and leadership roles or to develop their skills and take up roles in an organisation, but also those with an interest in business looking to enter back into the education space. It's an open entry course, which means that don't need any prerequisites to actually commence it. And at a diploma level, it's a really good, well-rounded course that helps you with the areas of selecting employees, onboarding them, understanding administrative processes. It's got the opportunity to develop, it's also got a focus on marketing to some extent. So it's got all the holistic elements that you would require and want to utilise as you are starting a business or taking up a management role in an organisation. So it's a well-placed course and provides really just the right level of information to really support your career advancement or achieve that new business outcome that you're seeking.
Excellent. And I suppose continuing on that in that it sort of does provide a nice sort of entry pathway into that space, and it might be that you're beginning your academic journey or perhaps you're returning to it. Talk to us a little bit about the core transferable skills that we've got up there in front of us, and I think what sort of a role they play, I think both in an academic but also in a business context as well.
Okay. Well, look, when you, if you imagine yourself starting a business or taking on a role in management within an organisation, number one is people. Okay, can I select people? Can I onboard people? Can I communicate with them? Can I lead them? Can I help manage their time effectively? Can I teach them about the processes in the organisation, whether they're appropriately documented? Can I transfer those skills? There's a planning component, but there's also, within any structure of a particular course, there's some flexibility in terms of the units that have been selected in terms of electives. And what we've really chosen here is a focus on promotion and also development and marketing, which is particularly important in a new business or a small business, because really what we've got here is people, process, and promotion and marketing in a business. And so really it's a very nice blend just to give you exactly the skills that really will support you as you develop a business. Nothing better than actually doing each unit as you go and then actually applying it in your organisation or in the business context. And so that as you go through the 12 units of competency that are here, really you're actually developing your business, developing the role that you're in your organisation.
Excellent. Now, continuing on from that theme, up in front of us now, we actually have the core and elective units that make up the course themselves. So now they're delivered over a 12-month period. Okay, and we're looking at sort of 12 units, so 5 core and 7 elective. Delivered sequentially. So really there's an opportunity for skills that you pick up in one unit to be built on the next unit and so on and so forth. So really, you sort of take learnings from the preceding units that you've done and of course apply them throughout the course itself. Now you made mention of the application of the units that are delivered throughout the course. We've got all the specific units up in front of us. If you wouldn't mind, perhaps just talking us through some of the key units there and the reasoning behind their inclusion and perhaps some of their application that we might see, particularly sort of in a real world business environment.
Well, look, this takes me back a little bit. I mean, I go back many years when I was starting my own business or running my own business. I did study business courses, and I got nothing better than actually going through a well-structured process and then applying it into the business. And I also use it, if I think back to applying for a series of either awards to highlight the business. So what you do as you go through the process is you start with a series of units, and the application into the business is really exciting. So firstly, look, critical thinking in others. So as you work in a team environment, the ability to solve problems, the structured approach to do that, understand the problem, am I actually addressing the right problem? What are the options? Which is the best way to proceed? Managing business resources. So business is really made up of resources, whether they're human resources, whether they're actually the stock at hand, whatever the organisation is, but really understanding the resource allocation, whether the resources are finance, money to actually do projects. So managing that in an effective way, thinking about that over from the perspective of budget and financial plans, or thinking about really just whether it's a Kanban system to ensure that you've got sufficient resources, stock on hand, whatever it might be, and it's the replenishment cycle and things of that nature. Develop workplace policies and procedures for sustainability. Well, certainly policies and procedures are embedding the tacit knowledge of an organisation. Critical when you onboard people and staff, critical for continuous improvement to keep refining those your systems and practices, and with the overlay of sustainability, which is a critical value proposition for organisations these days. Lead communication in the workplace. Look, managing is one thing, leading is the next step. Right? You can manage yourself, you can manage others, but the opportunity to lead communication in the workplace is the objective of, well, in an organisation, you set objectives, you've got a mission, a purpose as well for being there. You've actually got to communicate that effectively to people internally and externally, and that includes suppliers and includes customers. And it's really about speaking with authority, communicating ideas in a structured format, and really leading so as to achieve the objectives that you have set or that's been set within the organisation. The elective units support that. So there's an emphasis again on people, coordinate human resources, functions and processes. So the processes you're drawing already from the policies and procedures we talked about and the functions there are. Managing recruitment and onboarding. The number one resource in any effective organisation is people, is human capital. So really recruiting is critical. There's a famous phrase, I can hire capable people and teach them to be nice, or I can hire nice people and teach them to be capable. Having a very clear understanding of what the values are that you want in the people that you recruit, and then onboarding them so that they feel as if they're fulfilled, they're developed, and they understand the processes, they understand the objectives and KPIs in the organisation, and they really develop, not necessarily quickly, because people are a long-term investment, but the onboarding is just such a critical component, whether it's a small business, whether it's a large organisation, but management, recruiting and onboarding. Develop administrative systems. Again, it's around people. People are developing processes and systems. You've got to make sure that the organisation runs smoothly, avoids obstacles, so there's a risk management component to all of that. Manage personal and professional development. Again, this is really developing the people, no matter what, and yourself, to actually achieve the objectives, develop their skills, and really be the best representative of your organisation that they possibly can. Establish innovative work environments. Again, it's all about being a learning organisation. Innovation is the key. We're in such a competitive world where we do have to stand out by best products, best innovation, best innovative service. And you reflect that in social media and marketing, just as you reflect it in internal processes, but it's really in every encounter. If you can encourage innovation, then you can really motivate and encourage your team, and really the customers, suppliers, everyone involved really benefits from innovative thinking and just doing things, learning how to do things differently, save money, be more effective, have a better customer outcome. This then feeds into the marketing mix, making sure that the innovation then is reflected in the product, place, promotion, and the other components of the marketing mix that really can differentiate yourself and make your business in an organisation stand out, or your small business or business idea really develop. And then finally, really identify and evaluate marketing opportunities, which really becomes a pinnacle of all the learnings before that, which is really how to apply this and really stand out with a point of difference that is perceived as real value from the customers. And so look, it's a nice blend of these 12 units that have a real tangible outcome to either advance your career, build your business, or really start you off on an education pathway that really builds your skills, because you can combine this with, go on once you've done this to do further studies, or even combine it with complementary studies like project management or business and leadership.
Yeah, look, absolutely. It's a really good point you make there. There is, of course, an opportunity to couple the Diploma of Business with a specialisation such as project management. So we do, of course, offer a dual Diploma of Business and Diploma of Leadership and Management. There's also a dual Diploma of Business that can be coupled with a project management speciality as well. And then, of course, further on down the line by way of academic pathways, there's the Advanced Diploma of Business, Advanced Diploma of Leadership and Management, or even if information technology, is an area that you're interested in as well, there's, of course, the Advanced Diploma of Information Technology made available. So it really is, I think, sort of identifying where it is that you're currently at, where it is that you're going, or where, I think where it is that you intend on being, certainly in a professional capacity, and then, using that information to identify what's going to be the most appropriate sort of education solution for you. But certainly, really, I think as as you said, whether it be sort of starting your own business, or you're looking to upskill or even return to study, something like this is a really, really good starting point. Now, with respect to application, I think so far we've really kind of identified that there are so many different broad and varied applications, for the Diploma of Business, and we've got a number of industry sectors and occupations up here in front of us. And I'll probably stress that, of course, it's just a few. But a couple of, I think, of the really good examples, certainly where we're finding, strong application of the Diploma of Business include a business administrator role. We've got sales capacities there as well, so sales team leader, and particularly with that emphasis on the human resources, the critical thinking and the human capital development, plays a big role, certainly when it comes to, sales and communications and things like that. And then, of course, the project coordinator. Now, all of those roles, have very strong salaries and reasonable levels of growth, sort of as identified, by seek.com.au. And again, if you've got any sort of questions about that or whatever it may be, what I do recommend doing is get in contact with us and, establishing a point of contact with somebody in the education advice team who can talk to you about perhaps what your current role is and whether or not this Diploma of Business, this course is actually going to be the most applicable one for you. But really what we've got up there in front of us, I think, demonstrates that there is a broad application of this particular Diploma of Business. And in turn, when we look at certainly the salaries and things like that, that there is demand in industry for individuals with competencies and skill sets in these areas. And I think that's really one of the key takeaways there.
One thing I noticed, James, is missing is consulting. I studied business when I first started, and as I started my first business course, I got a job as I was doing it in a Tier 3 consulting firm. I finished that qualification, went to a Tier 2 firm, KPMG. I kept studying in business and then went off to A.T. Kearney, a Tier 1 business consulting firm. So, there are other roles that aren't mentioned here as well, business analyst roles where you might start off in consulting. So look, business really permeates just about every aspect of our working lives these days. So really, it's a really good foundation qualification.
Yeah, look, and you're right, look, there's that consulting element, but then we also made mention of particularly those who are starting their own business as well. I think doing the course, at the same time, perhaps as you're launching or you're really beginning to formalise what it is that you're doing in your own construct as a business owner and operator, can give you some nice frameworks to build your organisational policies and structure around, which is good as well. And we've also found those applications with another course that we deliver, which is the Certificate for Entrepreneurship and New Business. We've had a number of students and graduates come through, have used the course materials, the learnings and the competencies that come out of it to really closely align with what it is that they're doing, by way of, being a business operator or starting a new business. So there's certainly that application there as well. Now, we've had a look at the units. Mark, talk to us a little bit about the learning materials, that are made available to students and essentially how all of this is brought to life.
Look, one of the critical things about Mentor was when it was first started, 2003, going back a while back, was to really make sure that the learning resources were terrific. I've got experiences of study, and I'm sure lots of people have, but if I go back, way back, one of my worst experiences was seeing really, attending lecture arriving late, material not being that up to scratch, and even the lecturer turned up in tracky decks, wasn't really a great impression. I suppose when we started Mentor, one of the objectives was to make sure that the learning resources were on par with a KPMG report. So one of the things that we've got is we've made sure that we've got terrific textbooks, workbooks. We've got a whole range of hyperlinks to resources that can be used, virtual tutorials, webinars. There's instructed research as well. There's a whole range of components here to make sure that the self-directed study and learning is really easy. It's something that you can do any time, anywhere. We provide the support that's required when and where you need it. It's the fact that we've got 90% completion rates, over 90% satisfaction rates with the course. That's just a reflection of the fact that we are really focused on ensuring the learning outcomes for the students, that you achieve the goals that you're setting. It's not just about completing a course. The goals are the promotion, the pay increase, starting the new business effectively. And to do that, and you're always going to apply your own overlays and contextualize it to the situation you're in. If you're starting a small business, you're actually going to be doing that to hire the staff, to manage the process. And we've really spent a lot of effort. We've got a sensational education team, but also a really switched on instructional design team. So our course writers and developers. It's quite a big team at Mentor. It's over 40 educators and support teams and within the organisation. And the process is really critical that textbooks, the learner guides, the study guides, the PowerPoint presentation, the live online classrooms and tutorials are really effective. And you have the opportunity to interact with peers. You have the support from the student support team itself. And, it's to be a really good experience, but above all practical, and hits the objectives that you've set within the time frame that you need. If you want to do it quickly and really hit it hard because you've got objectives, if you need a bit of time because of life gets in the way, you can, you've got some flexibility within the time. But within this flexible online learning environment, there's the support and the quality education materials that you need.
Now, very much, and up in front of us now, we have a slide which is of great interest to prospective students all around the world. Doesn't matter what course you're doing. It's usually one of the first things that we find students ask about. And that, of course, is of assessment. Okay, so I've enrolled. Do I have a 3-hour exam? What do I need to know for the exam? All these kind of things. And I think that's common to students all around the world. But what I'd like to say, certainly here at Mentor, is that I think certainly with our ethos, focusing on student outcomes and things like that, assessment very much is a function or an extension, if you will, of the learning experience, okay? In that it's really designed to give you an opportunity to put into practice what it is, the skills, knowledge, and competencies that you've picked up throughout the units, and then put them into practice and essentially, I think, demonstrate them to the training and assessment team who are really kind of, facilitating. Mark, talk to us a little bit about the sort of assessment functions that students could expect. And of course, not all of these assessment functions would be applied to every single unit. You may be sort of getting a bit of a mix, but talk to us about some of the background behind that.
Well, firstly, it's a vocation-orientated qualification, which means there aren't exams. What it is a whole range of practical questions where you apply the skills you're learning to your job or to the new business. There's no doubt there's some knowledge component, so hence we've got some multiple choice questions and the like, but there's also the application of skills and critical thinking and the use of case studies and, doing analysis or scenarios associated with that. There's some project work. We actually apply something and you actually go through the implementation. We're doing presentations so you can develop your communication skills and reflect that. And there are some research tasks. So the bottom line, it's practical. One of if the objective was good completion rates and good satisfaction rates and good job outcomes, what we learned really early was that the quality of the assessments are critical to achieving that. Now, sometimes you can have questions, you go, oh, why are we doing this? And it's just, and the answer could be, well, it's a requirement that we ask this type of question. It's not like that. That's true at the base level, but the next level, of course, is, well, okay, you need to ask these type of questions, but how do you make it practical? How do you make sure that the instructions are really clear and obvious? And by looking at the answers that students provide, and our educators come together and we look at the units of competency and do a continuous improvement process on it. And we've really focused, when I talked before about the quality of the education resources, a big component of that is the actual assessment, the questions that we ask, the relevance of them, how to actually provide templates that are really intuitive and obvious so that you can actually apply the knowledge in a good way rather than spending a lot of time trying to figure out what the heck do they mean. If you're not sure, you can ask. So support is there and is available for you, whether it's by phone or whether it's by email. But look, we've put a lot of effort into making sure the assessments themselves are obvious, they're logical, because you might only have an hour tomorrow morning to do something, or half an hour another time to do a bit more on your study. You can't be sitting there scratching your head and go, well, what does all this mean and what are they asking? So the assessments are really practical, they're intuitive, and we try to make them as clear and as possible so that they apply and make real sense.
Yeah, and certainly with a number of the units as well, I mean, students get exposure to, a simulated business, where they get an opportunity to really put into practice, I think in a very practical sense, what it is that they're required to do based on the outcomes of some of those units. And certainly know for a fact that some of the templates that students build throughout those units, certainly with respect to policies and procedures and things like that, they've gone on to use in their own workplace as well. So again, there's some real benefits, and certainly, two birds, one stone. If you can build a policy and procedure template and apply it in an academic environment and then extend it to your workplace, you get some real benefits there. And I think that's kind of testament to the kind of, work-ready outcomes that very much are a part of both the learning materials, but the assessment functions themselves. Now, what I thought I'd do quickly is just talk about the online learning experience. Obviously, we have a number of students who are very familiar with it and some who are returning to learning after some period, or they haven't been exposed to online learning at all. So what are some of the key requirements to take advantage of an online learning experience? So the first thing you're going to want to have access to is a strong and reasonable internet connection, a laptop or desktop computer, and of course on that laptop or desktop computer, access to a browser. Now that might be Chrome, Firefox, Mac equivalent, whatever it is that you choose to use. Now, of course, one of the great advantages of that is that if you do have access to a smart device by way of a smartphone or a tablet or whatever it may be, you can also access the learning management system by way of the student portal using that as well. Now, I say that with a caveat, however. One of the great advantages of being able to access the learning management system 24 hours a day is the flexibility and accessibility that it offers. Okay, and again, so you'll be able to really get stuck into your readings and your learning materials, perhaps through a tablet or a smartphone. But when it comes to typing up your assessments and doing things like that, it could be very, very difficult doing it on a smart device. So that's why we do recommend, of course, you've got access to a laptop or desktop computer. Mark, you've, I think, not only, delivered online learning, for a vast number of years, but also done a number of courses in an online learning environment yourself, and making that fit in with anything and everything else that you've got going on, in life, and that can be working full time, running a family full time, doing all of that plus more. So really kind of, fitting study in, with everything and everything that's going on these days can be as much of a challenge as it, as I think, probably getting stuck into the course material itself. So talk to us about some of the experiences that you've had. I know you used to sort of get to work early and log into your learning management system by way of your student portal, for an hour before work started and things like that. So what are some examples you can give us?
Look, it is about setting a structure. Now, people are different. They've got some people are morning people, some people are night people, some people have a bit of time on the weekend. It's no different from organising exercise. I'm going to do an exercise class 2 mornings a week. I set the time, I can do that. So it's about regular time, figuring out what's needed. Ideally, if you said something like, I'm going to put an hour a day on doing this course and identify where that hour a day would be, that would be within the sufficient range. So somewhere between 1 to 2 hours would be effective. So the way I did it was I would just turn up to work an hour early, a couple of hours early. I go to a nice coffee shop, which would be my way of rewarding or bribing myself to do it. I would sit there and I wouldn't read the paper. I wouldn't do anything else. I would just spend an hour each morning before work going through this process. And, if I needed to photocopy something, I would do that thereafter. Look, online provides you with the flexibility to do it anywhere, anytime. There are audios that you can listen to, things that you can read. You can do that on public transport. You can do it as you're driving into work, and that's useful. But there's no doubt that a dedicated time to do something without distractions is important. You might have that dedicated place at home, and it's really about just setting those boundaries. I had, if I think about when I studied with young children, for example, I might have to do some work, do some, be up at night or do different things of that nature, but I could get to work an hour early. I could do the work with the coffee, and really just doing a little bit before each day of work, and sometimes maybe Saturday morning or something for a couple of hours. That was my routine. And we all have our own routines, but structure is important. If you do that a regular amount of time each week, you'll find you'll be able to pace it nicely. The beauty is it's not as if you've got an exam that's happening in 2 months' time and you've got to be ready and it's a hard deadline. You've got some flexibility. Still set yourself a pace. There are 12 units. Ideally, you're doing 1 unit of competency per month. Again, you've got some flexibility, but just pace yourself. So it's just 1 unit. I've got 1 month to do it. I'm going to get up every morning. I've got an hour set aside each day or whatever time it is. I'm not going to be distracted. Do bribe yourself if you get the opportunity. It certainly worked for me. Nice cup of coffee was always something to look forward to. And then I was quite happy to read. It was interesting, happy to do the work, and did it. You'll go through it nicely. Again, we really want you to complete. We want you to achieve your outcomes. So if life gets in the way and you need some flexibility, we're here to help you with that. But just be proactive and structured, and it'll be a breeze as you go through the online learning.
Excellent. Now, the duration of the course, which we've talked a lot about, is 12 months. But as you said, look, there is, there may be need for flexibility in that, okay, which kind of brings me on to this next theme of support. So there's a whole range of support afforded to students throughout the process, even before they start. And really where it starts is with the education advice team. And that's an opportunity for you to discuss with them what it is that you're currently doing, perhaps study that you've done in the past, where it is that you'd like to go, and what it is that I think you're angling towards, both academically and also professionally. And then going through that process of consultation and then identifying what's going to be the most appropriate education solution for you. And in this case, it may very well be the Diploma of Business. Now, once you're enrolled, you've got access to a whole range of support by way of the students team of student support officers, but also the training, assessment and education team. Now, The student support team are there to assist you with just about anything and everything, and that can be taking you through an onboarding process for access to the learning management system, resetting passwords, could even be setting appointments with members of the education team and things like that. And then there's, of course, the education team themselves. Now, before I get onto that, though, other functions that are available by way of support really, I think, come back to this idea where we recognise, particularly in a modern learning environment, that life happens. Okay, we certainly coin that term quite regularly. And I think in recognising that it is a matter of, fitting in sort of study with anything and everything else that goes on, there may be times where you're in a position that you do need extra support. You do need access to resources which you can't see, and we can certainly direct you towards those. Or it could even be that something has happened, it could be a family emergency or whatever it may be, and you do need to suspend your course. And it might be, 2 weeks, 1 month, 6 weeks, whatever it may be. And if that's the case, we understand, no dramas, just let us know, get in contact with us. And what we can actually do is arrange to actually suspend your course for a certain period of time. And so that you don't kind of have that stress and thinking, you know what, I've got 12 months, something's just happened, I have to go overseas or whatever it may be, and I've still got to get this going on. Work with us. Support functions are there to really, really assist you, sort of in achieving those outcomes, which is really kind of what it's all about. And then I sort of briefly just touched on it, and arguably probably one of the most important support functions that you can have access to is the training, assessment and education team. Now, they're made available, via phone and email, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, based here in Melbourne and Sydney, also Brisbane, Adelaide as well. So depending on, of course, what stream you're involved in. And they can do one-on-one sessions with you, focusing on the course material. They can also focus on assessments with you, things like that, if you've got some questions or whatever it may be. Mark, talk to us about some of the support functions that are made available to students, and perhaps probably even more so the ethos behind what the education team can do to support students when it comes to, I think, getting the most out of the courses and the units that they're doing.
Well, look, number one, everyone is in the education support team, they're qualified educators. So firstly, it means that they've got a qualification in training and assessment. And secondly, they've got the qualification that they're teaching, but usually not, a more senior qualification. So someone might have a diploma of business, but they might also have a master's of business as well. The number one focus is to assist you achieve your outcomes, your learning outcomes. Now, that doesn't mean giving you the answers. It doesn't mean just, extending things necessarily. So, one of the things we learned early was there is a need for a structure and maybe even a little bit of tough love. Okay, you need an extension. How long do you need? Okay, 2 weeks or a month or whatever it might be. Will you complete it in that time? There is a need for a structure to help people achieve their goal because, without that, sometimes it gets a bit too fluid. But the bottom line is when you have a question, you can ring in. We tend to find that the most effective support is an email because as you construct your email, you're typing in the question, the solution, giving what you think might be the problem that you've got. It allows you to reflect as you type it in and us on the other side to reflect on the process. Every time you contact us, we raise a ticket on an automated ticket system. At the end of the process, we ask you whether you are satisfied with the outcome. We measure the time it takes to resolve the ticket. We measure your level of satisfaction. We really get upset with ourselves if it's under about 95, 98% satisfaction level. That's the way we really make sure that we provide timely and constructive and effective support in the process. And look, the bottom line is we're measured. The government measures, surveys our students each year. They tell us what our completion rates are, how the percentage of students that actually get the job outcome that they want, satisfaction completion rates. They're the job outcomes. We get that, they're public records. And so, we're very proud to have all those indicators in the 90% and above ranking. So that's our focus. And the educators there do the role as an educator because they actually want to give back. A lot of people have worked in lots of different roles, but an educator is someone who really wants to impart knowledge and learning, and And so we're fortunate to have a really capable team that have been with us for many, many years, sometimes a decade or more, you know the course, know the qualification, and really focus very hard on students. James, one thing I did want, just going back one little bit, we did mention something about dual qualifications. I think which could be project management or leadership and management and the like that you could do. One of the benefits of that is that we've designed some of these qualifications, like those two, project management and the like, to overlap, so they share units of competency. So if you did a dual, and I'm not suggesting you do that, it's up to your particular objectives, but one of the benefits is that you actually get two qualifications, but because they overlap, it's not like doing 24 units of competency over 2 years. It's depending on it, it might be both together, might be just 16 units of competency, 4 extra, for example, because they're actually shared competencies there. And if you are in project management, for example, then doing, say, business and project management is actually very nice. And it is maybe worth looking at some of those things, but I digress. The thing about support really is having it when you need it, and just recognizing that everyone's got aligned objectives. We're aligned to help you achieve your outcome of that pay increase or promotion or get that new business being successful, in the same way that you are. And so we provide support accordingly.
Yeah, excellent. And probably one other point as well is, look, in the event that you do submit an assessment task and it doesn't quite tick all the boxes, there's no additional charge for resubmissions, so you get some really nice detailed feedback on perhaps, where you might be able to improve in certain areas and give it an opportunity to kind of, bring that up to speed and then resubmit it. And of course, there's also an opportunity, of course, to link those in with those one-on-one support sessions. And also with respect to the, academic pathway options and of course, dual qualification options, more information is actually made available in the course guide and brochure that you can download for this. And the other thing, of course, speak to the education and advice team, and they can work out exactly what's going to be the most appropriate one for you, and obviously where they're going to complement each other best. What we have is a series of questions that we often get asked by students. So what I thought was quickly just go through those. And the first one is, can I get government funding? And the short answer to that is no. So all of our courses are self-funded, often by students themselves, or in some cases their employers. But in the event that perhaps the enrolment fee is a little bit out of reach at the beginning, we do have payment plans and options available. So one of the best things to do, if that's something you'd like to take advantage of course, just speak with the education advice team. You can start at just about any time. So look, if you can get enrolment into us, usually by 4 p.m. on business days, we can have you up and running that night with access to your learning materials and anything and everything that you need to complete the course. Everything's included with the course. So you don't need to purchase any additional textbooks. You don't have to pay for assessments, anything like that. Anything and everything that you need to achieve the qualification is included with the enrolment fee. Difference with study options. Now, with some units, there's access to virtual classroom, online classroom virtual tutorials, which is an opportunity for you to interact directly with your educator. And of course, there's completely self-directed options as well if you just like to completely do the course alone. We do recommend, where available, students take advantage of the online classrooms. Again, it's that sense of connectivity, which is really important, particularly in an online learning environment, but also that opportunity to interact in real time, not just with your educator, but also with your cohort as well. So we do everything we can to kind of make that classroom experience really come to life in an online environment. The course is nationally recognised in all states and territories around Australia. As Mark said, no prerequisites, but we do ask that you have a reasonable command of English language and numeracy skills. But again, if you've got any questions about that, contact the EA, the Education Advice team. They can, of course, assist you with that. And we've also got other materials and resources that we can make available to you if you feel that's going to be a bit of a challenge. And how long do people usually take to finish? Well, 12 months is really the time frame that you want to stick with. As Mark said, there may be times where you can dedicate a little bit more time, so you may work through some units faster than others. Or as I said, sort of in the support section, you may need to put the course on hold for a period or whatever it may be. So a little bit of flexibility there, but really the time frame you want to stick with is 12 months. Now, Mark, you nearly gave it away earlier on when we were talking about student outcomes. And give you a bit of background on Mentor, we've been delivering online education in the financial services, accounting, business, project management space since 2003. Over 20,000 graduates in that time. very much committed towards student outcomes and online learning and doing it the best way possible. One of, I think, the indicators of the success that we've had is very much the outcomes that we get from our students. Now, up here, we've got some numbers that are reported by the National Centre for Vocational Educational Research. So they're not our numbers, an independent body reporting on us based on student outcomes. Mark, talk to us about what those numbers are and what they actually mean. And you're just on mute there.
Well, so graduate outcomes is a key focus and parameter for education providers, and the NCVR does this survey. They do it of all education providers, and look, majority of universities may well have figures in about the 60% in terms of outcomes and the like. One of the beauties of the program, it is that we've really focused on providing quality courses in areas that provide job outcomes. So, the way we select the qualifications, the units of competency, the way we design it, the skills of our team, they're all focused around probably the number one thing, which is making sure that you get the outcome that you want. So the promotion, the job. So there are jobs available in the areas that we focus on. So courses in demand is how you might frame that. So these are 4 indicators that are assessed. 92% of graduates were employed or enrolled in further study after training. So the outcome might, if you do want to continue on to study, you might progress and go on, but majority are looking for employment and the like. So that's a really number one key factor. 91.6% of students were satisfied with overall quality of training. 86.5% of students would recommend Mentor as a training provider, and 90.2% of students were satisfied with the assessment. So that goes to the assessment point we talked about. It goes to the job outcomes. It goes with the overall quality of training and assessment in the process. We do have over 5,000 students currently at Mentor. We've got an alumni of over 80,000 students that have worked with Mentor Education. We have around 40 staff members within the organisation, and we have a whole range of qualifications that we spend a lot of time focusing on to make sure that they're the right qualifications and they're delivered in the most efficient and effective way. So these indicators are important. Then, from our internal point of view, we strive each year to do better, and we focus on that. And we have a big, strong governance function in the organisation where we work through these indicators. We think about how we can continue to improve them, and that's really our focus. And as part of our commitment, it's high level of student support. We've got industry experts. So every one of our educators, I talked about their qualifications, I talked about their background, but I haven't said much about their industry experts. So each one of our educators, of course, also has to do ongoing work in their particular area. So if we do teaching accounting, they've got to do some work as an accountant. Certainly had to have that experience apart, but they must keep the currency of that. They're also involved in regular meetings where we actually pull apart individual courses and we take student feedback and we continue to improve that. We work hard to respond to our learner, the questions from our students or our learners. It's really about offering constructive feedback and guidance that helps achieve these outcomes. And if I just think just quickly back to the slide before where we talked about not offering government funding, one of our policies in relation to that is we, from a values perspective, a number one value is quality courses that deliver these outcomes. A number two value is really ensuring that it is value for money courses. So we operate in an effective space, and quite often we find that by the time you get a student loan from the government and you pay the fees and things of that nature, it's a lot more expensive than just doing our cost-effective courses, whether it's on payment plan if you need or not. So it's almost a policy decision there. So really, we're focusing on really high quality with good support and being really cost-effective, and that's our positioning in, as an educator.
And I think a lot of that's all probably also driven by that sort of, open access to education, which really is a big driver, for us. And in some cases, where possible, we'll even make scholarships available to students and things like that. Now, finally, if you'd like more information about what we talked about today, the best thing to do is probably head on over to the website. So mentor.edu.au. You'll be able to see the BSB50120 Diploma of Business course page, and you can download the course guide, and you'll get anything and everything that we talked about today, plus more, including detailed information about each of the units, all sorts of things like that. Now, if that doesn't work for you, contact us direct via email. So courseconsultant@mentor.edu.au. You can ask, and that'll get sent directly through the education advice team. So you can ask a question, request a course brochure, whatever it may be, and they'll be able to write back to you. Otherwise, between 9 and 5, Monday to Friday, Melbourne and Sydney time, our team's based here in Melbourne. Give us a call on 1300 306 146. Again, you can be put directly through the education advice team and ask any questions you've got directly over the phone if that works for you. Now, if none of those mediums of communication work, the other one is get on the website, and we've got a live instant messaging chat function. So again, that's looked after by our education advice team between 9 and 5, Monday to Friday, Melbourne and Sydney time. So you can actually chat and type and get your answers live in real time and feedback. So that might be the best option for you as well. So if you've got your smartphone handy, scan that QR code up there on the screen, and that'll take you directly on over to the Diploma of Business course page, again, where you'll be able to download that course guide and also get a direct link to the online enrolment portal as well, should that be something that you'd like to jump into. Mark, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, James.
And thank you very much to everybody who's tuned in. As always, take an opportunity to excite your potential. We look forward to seeing you as students very soon, and we'll catch you next time.